Okay, so it should be recording now, and hopefully that will be good for everybody. All right, take it away, Chris. I'll mute myself.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Mike. Delighted to be here. Nice to meet you all virtually. As Mike said, I'm involved in quantum, but sort of the context for this also is that I describe myself as a nonlinear multimodal careerist. So I've had like 8 different careers over the 50 years I've been in the workplace. I have a degree in German lit. I graduated from college and got a gig touring with a country rock band, played a lot of music for a living, ended up in New York, was in the jingle business, taught myself to be a web producer, worked at IBM for 15 years in a bunch of different roles. I e-tired about 10 years ago and became intrigued with quantum about 3 years ago. So I have some charts here I want to share with you. Let me go to the share screen. So we get these to come up.
Oh,
Okay.
one question, Chris. So
Yeah.
if students have questions, do you want them to hold off till the end, or
No, let's make it a conversation. I mean, feel free to interrupt me or whatever, right? Um,
okay?
if you have a question, if anything I'm saying doesn't make sense, or if you want to drill down into a topic more, or if I use an acronym you don't understand, feel free to interrupt me or wait till the end, whatever you're comfortable doing, right? So let me put this in screen slide share. Can you see that? See
Yeah,
my,
we can.
yeah, okay, good. So I'm going to talk to you what I call this the secrets to working in quantum. Um, Again, just backstory as Mike was saying, among other things, I host something called the Quantum Tech Pod, which is available on Apple Music and Spotify. I've interviewed 60 executives in quantum information science. I just published my 60th episode today, which was an interview with a woman, Vanessa Diaz. She's the CEO of a company called um, Lux Quanta. They do QKD. She's based in Spain. Again, as Mike mentioned, I host the Office Hours, which is a monthly session that we run for the Quantum Economic Development Consortium, QEDC, to connect students studying quantum with mentors in the private sector and at national labs. We're doing our next one on Thursday, November 30th. I think someone sent an email to all of you. So if you have questions, send me a note, or I think Mike has the URL where you can sign up. We have a Google Sheet, a Google form where you can sign up. So I want to start by talking about sort of social, historical, economic perspective on work and technology, if you will. So, meta message humans have been using technology to solve problems for thousands of years since the technology was like a sharp stick that you would take out into the Pleistocene wilderness to try to kill something larger than you. Uh, Translates to implications of what we call jobs and careers. So, today, the technology, for example, might be a robot loading boxes in a warehouse, but technology and jobs and careers is sort of the meta theme. Do we have any historians, amateur historians in the group? This is my sort of pop quiz. I start out by asking who said this, right? Can you figure out who might have said this and what they said it about? Anybody want to take a stab at guessing who this might be? Put it in the chat, or it's just turn on your mic and shout it out. Again, this is not going to be on the test, but just a way to get us thinking about social historical perspective on technology and jobs. Anybody? Oh, here we go. I see something in the chat. Feel free to type here too. Okay, so I'm not going to belabor this, but I refuse to issue a patent for fear it will put my poor subjects out of work. So the person who said this was Queen Elizabeth I, and she said it about a mechanized knitting machine, and she said it in 1589. So 430 odd years ago, people were having conversations about the impact of technology on work. Some people might say Chat GPT is a similar kind of conversation here in 2023. If you're into this kind of topic, there's a great book just for those of you who are fascinated by technology and economics and jobs. It's by a woman named Carlota Perez. She's a professor of economics. She's from Venezuela. She teaches at Oxford. She has some great videos on YouTube, but she divides the last sort of 350 years into 5 cycles of innovation, sort of disruption or crash, and then standardization and adoption. So again, this has been going on for a while. the impact we're seeing on technologies like quantum, like AI, like robotics, like bioengineering. It's part of a longer conversation that we've been having as humans for literally hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So again, context, but let's talk about evolution of computers. Right? We're here to talk about quantum. I know you're interested in that. So you can break it into 4 phases at a meta level, if you will. That said, I'm going to give you another pop quiz before we get into it. Does anybody know what this is? Oh, I can sing the Jeopardy theme. Bum, 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 bum. It's something called the Antikythera mechanism. It's the first, described as the first analog computer. It was found in like 150 feet of seawater off an island called Antikythera in the Aegean Sea. And it was able to predict the orbits of the 4 planets closest to the sun, cycles around Olympics every 4 years, lunar eclipses. There's some great videos, again, on YouTube. They've reconstructed this device. But again, technology driving problem solving, driving jobs and careers. But let's talk about mechanics. Anybody have heard of Charles Babbage? He was a brilliant English gentleman who was a philosopher and also a scientist. He designed something called the difference engine with like 4,000 brass and steel parts that could add and subtract. It was actually never built during his lifetime, but a team at the British Science Museum put it together and built one in like 1980. I was actually there in London this spring, and I went to the museum and saw it and took a picture of it. This is what it looks like. It adds and subtracts and prints out results of calculations on this paper feed, if you will. So pretty cool. Mechanical device for problem solving. Vacuum tubes. So here's some images of a device called ENIAC, the first sort of electronic calculator or computer, if you will. It was completed in 1945. It was housed at the University of Pennsylvania. It was mostly used to calculate ballistic trajectories. But look at the size of this thing. It took up an entire room. Pretty amazing. It didn't do much, but compared to previous devices, this was a huge breakthrough, right? An electronic numerical integrator and calculator computer. Moving on, transistors. So early transistors in the late 40s and then integrated circuits about 25 years later. This is what the first transistor looked like at Bell Labs. This was Intel's first integrated circuit, if you will. And it led to things like this, the IBM personal computer, and then ultimately now Apple Watch or smartwatches, right? We have this technology that went from a size of a room to something you can wear on your wrist. So keep this in mind as context for quantum as well. We don't know where this will go. Will there be quantum capabilities that you can wear? Samsung's already claiming they have a phone that will deliver quantum random number generation as a secure way to capture and transmit data. But quantum is what we're talking about today. And it's based a lot of this on Richard Feynman's concepts, where he imagined a quantum machine that efficiently calculates solutions to quantum mechanical problems. This is a paper that he put out in 1982. He's sort of the father of this whole idea of quantum computers for sure, and developing quantum devices. So now we find ourselves in 2023. Here's a quote from Bob Suter. He's actually a colleague of mine. We were at IBM together years ago. He's now at Inflection in Boulder, where you guys are. And his contention is many industries are currently working with quantum computing, including banking, capital markets, insurance, automotive, aerospace, and energy. You know, in years to come, the breadth and depth of industries leveraging quantum will continue to grow. He's talking about computing, but we're going to talk about more broadly other applications of quantum. But again, this is certainly a true statement. The key focus areas for all of you, certainly from a work perspective, jobs, career view, are computing, clocks and sensors, networks, and cybersecurity. And they're all at different levels of maturity with different levels of opportunity as well. Let's talk about quantum computers. Certainly, as you know, leveraging the laws of quantum mechanics provides exponential power, performance. You're probably familiar with the quantum supremacy problem that Google ostensibly solved. They put together a toy problem in their Sycamore 54-qubit superconducting qubit quantum computer in 2019 and solved this problem in 200 seconds. And they contend that it would have taken a classical computer 10,000 years to solve the same problem. IBM immediately sort of refuted it. There's been lots of conversation. A team in China has supposedly beat this performance metric. But anyway, the idea is any business that's capturing and rationalizing data, which is every business, is going to be able to take advantage of this kind of power. So it enables completely new capabilities around computing. One of the challenges is multiple qubit modalities, which makes it complex and difficult to initially drive business value, but there are already companies focused on which modality might be the best for certain applications. To talk about quantum sensors, they're orders of magnitude more sensitive than classical sensors. Use cases include, the example in the lower left is a 3D printable, wearable, quantum sensor-based medical device that is being used to detect childhood epilepsy. It's put together by a company in the UK called Circumagnetics. The device on the right is from Delta G, another UK company, checking, gravitometers using quantum sensors, looking for instances of soil maybe compromised under a building or in a mine or in areas where there's GPS denied environments like a mine or a place where you want to detect what's going on in the earth and you can't get a traditional sensor to get a reading. So quantum sensors, interesting area. Quantum networks, using photons to send, compute, and receive information. This is a little animated GIF that the University of Chicago shared based on this initial network that they put together, connecting Argonne National Lab and an endpoint out on a toll plaza. But sending unhackable encrypted messages has broad implications for all kinds of businesses, transmitting secret information or proprietary data. So it's going to be facilitated. It's going to facilitate quantum networks as well. So quantum sort of distributed quantum computing will be enabled by this capability. And then finally, the one that's probably on the top of mind for most businesses today is quantum cybersecurity. So Y2Q is coming. The point when a quantum computer can break present day RSA and elliptical ECC encryption, right? So implications for financial, military research data that you want to keep secret. The threat is described as harvest now, decrypt later. Companies, foreign powers, non-state actors, hackers in general are capturing data now and parking it with the idea that when quantum computers can decrypt it, they'll use it for ransomware or sell it to competitors or, capture US secrets and sell them to China. NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology in DC, is recommending quantum safe algorithms. That's an ongoing conversation. QKD is a sort of physical, technical way to share data using quantum in a safe way. And then post-quantum cryptography is a software approach by determining where your sensitive data is and how to identify it and how to capture it. And there was a remit from the US government requiring all agencies to put together a plan for how they were going to identify and protect their data. So that's a business that's going on now, meaning jobs, work, opportunities. So how can you contribute as students in this space? This slide is a bunch of screen grabs of technologies that, moved from the lab, if you will, into real world consumer applications. So one of my favorites is Isaac Asimov pitching Radio Shack computers. Some of these brands have gone away, right? Nobody's using a Royal McBee computer anymore. Price points have come down. Imagine paying $3,398 for a 10 megabyte hard disk. You can get like a 3 terabyte flash drive now for $80. I think the most telling example is the upper left, Microsoft Multiplan. This exec is saying it allows him to explore more alternatives in less time. The meta message is it's delivering business value, right? It's letting us do something better than we did it before. Again, technology, solving problems, and translating to jobs and careers. So these are some funny images, right? But we're going to see similar kinds of transitions as quantum moves into the mainstream and into driving business value. So this is kind of the money chart, if you will. It's what I call the evolving quantum workforce ecosystem. The net message of this is you don't have to be a particle physicist to work in quantum. Certainly, there are scientists and researchers at the center of it. I don't mean to demean them. A lot of the work is being done and led by these kinds of people with these kinds of skills and background and training. But above them on this chart, not above philosophically, they're executives. You need people to run these companies. These are all companies at the end of the day, right? In the upper right, you need salespeople, business development. Someone's got to go to a client who has a checkbook and say, this is how it's going to deliver business value. Whether you're a big company like IBM or a comparatively smaller company like CoQuantum, which is now Inflection. UX design is a burgeoning space. How do we touch this stuff? The human computer interaction. Because a lot of these, solutions are devices. They have some hardware involved. So people with, human computer interface training are going to be involved in figuring out how to make these work and look better and deliver functionality that's valuable. Education, the profession that enables all other professions, right? People teaching it, people who want to have conversations about regulatory and policy issues. How are we going to regulate this stuff? Ethics associated with quantum applications. At the bottom of the screen, optics, wiring, and photonics. This is kind of the picks and shovels, if you will, companies that provide lasers and test benches. There's a whole market for that, right? People are looking to build and sell dill fridges. That's a whole niche area where people with hardware training and interest in that space could work. And certainly comms and PR and marketing and branding. You got to market this stuff. Someone's got to write about it, make it comprehensible, explainable, find ways to talk about it in terms that lay people perhaps and potential clients, employees, customers, partners, investors can understand. And then speaking of investing, so all of the major banks have practice areas now focused on quantum. Goldman, Barclays, JP Morgan, and certainly the management consulting firms like McKinsey, Accenture, Ernst & Young, BCG, Bain. There's some contention that these are the people that are really making money today in quantum by advising people at the top of the businesses about how to use quantum, how it's going to drive their business model. So this is the big picture. Any questions about this? I want to pause for a moment. I know I've been talking a lot here. Does this make sense? Again, I want to cast this as encouraging, right? To give you the idea that there's lots of different ways to get involved in quantum and bring skills from other disciplines and transfer them to a quantum setting. Right? Make sense? If I could see, I hope their heads nodding. Okay. So moving on, this is just a screenshot of the landscape, and it's by no means comprehensive, but I put it in here to give you a sense of the kinds of companies, the range of applications that are being explored in quantum. Certainly hardware and software, lower left. I mean, IBM is a leader for sure. Intel is involved. Rigetti, I'm not going to name all these companies, Google, Microsoft, all the big players, Amazon. People that are working in niche applications defined by verticals, for example. So the upper right, chemicals, materials, biotech. Companies that are focused on drug discovery, drug development, or materials science. Companies focused on cybersecurity and networks in the middle here. So ID Quantique, Connect, Cambridge Quantum. So companies that are providing end-to-end solutions. The one I would point out is Quantinuum, which is, I describe it as sort of the Apple of quantum, if you will, because they have hardware, software, services. It's a company that was created through a merger of Honeywell Quantum, providing hardware and services, and a company called Cambridge Quantum, which is a quantum software company. And they now can offer end-to-end solution, right? The full stack, if you will, hardware, software, services. And they had their relationships because they're Honeywell, which is a 100-year-old storied sort of manufacturing company that has traditionally provided things like HVACs and fire alarms. They're also in aerospace as well. They have a broader portfolio than that, but the bottom line is they have credibility. So, and companies like IBM have credibility. So when they come to clients with a new technology, we've got this quantum thing we want to talk to you about. People take the call and investigate. So that's a view. And what I've done, I like to end by showing you some screen grabs of real world job recs. I have a URL I'll dig out here that I can share with you of a Google sheet that we curate at the QEDC of career pages for over 125 quantum companies, ranging hardware, software, services, all different kinds of qubit modalities all over the world. So I'll put that URL in the chat when we're done. But Allison Bob is a superconducting quantum computing company in Paris. Very interesting. I did a podcast with their CEO recently. It came out November 1st. I encourage you to check that out. Really smart guy. They're looking for a software engineer for instrumentation, but they're also looking for an HR manager. So maybe if you're interested in hiring or talent acquisition, you might explore that kind of role. This IonQ is the first pure play quantum company to go public. They're based in Maryland, outside DC. They are dealing with trapped ions as a qubit modality. They're looking for a senior engineer, optical quantum computing, but they're also looking for a facilities manager, someone to help them run the real estate, in this case, in Basel in Switzerland. So again, to give you a sense of the range of skills that are needed to run these companies, these are businesses at the end of the day. Their deliverable is based on quantum for sure, but they're companies. So this is Oxford Quantum Circuits, run by a very talented woman named Ilana Wispy. You may have heard of her. They're looking for a quantum engineer to work in Tokyo, but they're also looking for an executive assistant, someone to help Ilana Wispy probably manage her schedule and deal with her travel and her expenses and all the requests for her time from the media and on and on. So an EA and a quantum engineer, both in need at this leading quantum company. They're actually, by the way, the first European quantum company to go on Amazon Bracket, which is the cloud-based setting where you can rent time on a quantum computers. They have 4 different modalities currently available. Photonic, they just signed a $100 million deal with Microsoft. They're developing silicon spin qubits. So what that translates to, again, $100 million deal with Microsoft means they're going to grow. They're going to be hiring. They're going to be looking for talent. So they're looking for an FPGA engineer for sure, but they're also looking for a director of marketing, someone to, as I said on that earlier chart, right? Someone to run the marketing aspect of their business for them. So a range, again, really cool company. I did a podcast with their CEO, a woman named Stephanie Simmons. I encourage you to check that one out too. Here's another one, Qwera. They're a neutral atom computer company based in Boston. They just signed a deal with QMware and Quantum Machines. So they're looking for 2 experimental physicists for sure, but also a laboratory manager. Again, someone with program management, project management skills to kind of run the lab for them, right? That could be a cool way to get involved, get started. One more. This is my favorite, actually. This is Rigetti, another superconducting quantum computing company started by Chad Rigetti. He's a former IBMer. They're looking for a quantum test engineer in Berkeley, California. They're based in Silicon Valley. But they're also posting this thing that they call future open position. And what this is they don't know how their portfolio might evolve, but they're looking for smart people with quantum skills to put in their sort of job database, if you will, so that if and when they get an order for something they have trouble fulfilling, or they get an executive hire who starts a new line of business, or they get a new funding round, or they establish a partnership strategically with another vendor, they might need someone with your skills. So they want to have you logged somewhere in their system. So if and when one of those compelling events happens, they know how to get a hold of you. I've never seen anything like this. Certainly not at IBM. There was never any future open position that was quite prescriptive in terms of what kind of skills they needed. So that's pretty exciting. And again, an indicator of the rate and pace at which quantum is growing and how, exciting and interesting it is. So key takeaways, quantum information science, it's a growing field. There are many opportunities today, and there are many more that are emerging. You should be ready to work in different settings and in different roles to move from one to the other. Again, that workforce chart I shared, you might start in business development or in PR and move into a policy role, or you might have experience with UX design and discover you want to make guidance around business strategy. So lots of opportunities. Keep learning, keep exploring, and network. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, by the way. There are lots of really interesting conversations going on LinkedIn around quantum. So I would encourage you to follow all these major companies that I mentioned, connect with me, follow me. I post periodically. Lots of smart people are putting up interesting information. Build your network. I always contend that college students should try to add 5 people a week to their LinkedIn profile. So put that on your list. Make it a job. So I'll see you in the quantum enabled future. I hope this was valuable. Again, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email, chris@improvisingcareers.com. And I'll stop there and stop sharing. Maybe we can take some questions or have a conversation.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, so folks, we've got a little bit of time. Please feel free to ask any questions. You can just call them out or you can type them in the chat and I'll read them. I know from experience last year that Chris is not joking about connecting with students on LinkedIn. We had some of our students connect with him last year, and I hope you will take advantage of this opportunity too. Any questions from anybody?
Let me ask, what are people studying? So somebody, what books do you recommend for quantum? That's a great question. Abby, there are lots of different books for sure, some more technical than others. One of the seminal writers about quantum is a gentleman named Brian Linehan. He's on LinkedIn. I'll put his name in the chat. He has a book called Quantum Boost. Like I misspelled it. It might be Lenah. He has a couple of books, Quantum Boost, I think, and Quantum Zoom is the second one. I have them piled up over here. That's a good one. Here, let me show you another one. This is a pretty cool one. It's called Quantum Computing, How It Works and Why It Can Change the World. There are a couple of books by a gentleman named Bob Kuke, who's the chief science. Better to show these, right? Only Bob Kuke is a chief scientist at Continuum. Actually, was a don at Oxford for like 20 years. For more scientific books, he wrote this book, Quantum in Pictures. This is kind of a cool book as well, right? So there's a range of things, more detailed, some are more technical, some are not. Well, all right, this is cool. Somebody put a link in the chat. So I would say, that's a place to start. Are you looking for more technical or sort of historical perspective? Would you say? Well, let me find. So, hang on. I'm going to take a moment since we're here and pull up Brian Linehan. So share this. Let's be specific here.
Chris, can you also put Bob's name in the chat as well? I missed the spelling for that last name.
Yeah, for sure. Let me and Brian Linehan has a cool Substack as well. You guys familiar with Substack? Right? It's sort of it's a place where people write and post articles and let me find his books though. Hang on. Brian Linehan. So you know what I'll do? I'll put his LinkedIn profile in here. Here we go. And then you can sort of take it from there, right? That'll give you. So this is Brian, right? The other guy is, again, this is to sort of encourage you to use LinkedIn as a tool, right? So reach for Brian, connect with him, and certainly follow him, but connect with him as well. He's a very generous, gracious guy, lives in Canada, writes a lot of stuff on LinkedIn about quantum, speaks at events. There we go. This is Bob. Bob is also a guitar player. And he's been on the road recently and posting kind of where he's speaking. It's been pretty entertaining. Here we go. So this is Bob, right? Bob Kuke. Also, I want to give you this. This is the URL for the QEDC career pages. It's a Google sheet. It's public, so you should be able to get to that easily. I'm going to put my LinkedIn profile in the chat. There's me. Also, I put together a page for a course I did recently for ASU, Arizona State University, of resources. I'm going to put this in the chat. This is another Google sheet that has books, podcasts, companies to follow, thought leaders to follow. There's a bunch of YouTube videos. It's pretty comprehensive. So a place to explore anyway. There's also, here's one more. There's a woman named Olivia Lanes. She's at IBM. Fantastic, really smart. And she has these YouTube videos, what courses to take. That's what that last video link is. So lots of homework.
And we'll
Other
make sure, folks. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say we'll make sure, folks, that these links are available after this meeting too.
Yeah, that sounds good. Other questions? What are people studying? What are people interested in? Like, if you had to pick one of those 4 areas, does one of them resonate with you? Cybersecurity or computing or networking? Anybody? Turn on
I'm
your
personally in civil engineering, but like I'm a big nerd and like to learn everything in the universe at least.
cool civil engineering. You should check out Delta G, right? They have this really cool, again, quantum-based gravitometer. And they just got funding from Quantum Exponential, which is a VC firm in London. They're doing really interesting stuff using quantum sensors. All right, bye, Amanda. Connect with me on LinkedIn, please, and share the references with your students. Yes, thank you for joining.
I really appreciate how you started talking about cybersecurity in the field and how and why it's like really necessary. Because that's one thing I will say a lot of students, I work at the Community College of Aurora, and a lot of the students who kind of thought that they would be interested in joining QRX were like, oh, well, I'm more interested in cyber, not quantum computing. And I didn't really realize that there's still that whole connection to the cyber field as well. So now I know for, future cohorts when we're building it, I can definitely push this towards them as well.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. I mean, I contend that it's moved the conversation from the concept of quantum writ large, people thinking, oh, it's kind of an R&D thing. It's still in research and we don't need to really worry about it. It's someday it'll get there. We'll just kind of sit tight. But it's now moved the conversation to a risk management conversation. So it needs to be now taking place at the top of the business, even at a board level. Because I mean, if someone steals your proprietary IP and sells it to a competitor or to a foreign country or whatever, that's a going out of business strategy. So they need to figure out ways to do it, and it's happening now. I mean, companies are not waiting around. And again, lots of governments are issuing these mandates saying to government agencies and departments or whatever, you've got to put together a plan and show it to us. What are you going to do about this? I mean, all the U.S. government agencies, DOJ, I mean, Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, so what are you doing? So what that translates to is these companies like Sandbox AQ, or I'll put that in the chat, which is run by a guy from Jack Hidary, who's someone you should follow. He's a former Google guy. They spun it out of Google in March. They have a lot of big government contracts, bringing conversations around quantum and AI and cybersecurity to clients. So, yeah, he's a cool guy to follow. He's at the World Economic Forum like today, talking about quantum and AI. And the Sandbox AQ is AI and quantum. That's what the AQ is, right? So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Send me a connection request. And again, the QKD aspect of it, I just published this conversation today with the woman who runs a QKD company in Spain. Really interesting perspective on how they're approaching this quantum key distribution challenge, what the value is. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I can see a few folks are starting to drop. Any last questions before we close it off for tonight? Going
Very
once.
good. All right. Oh, Felicia, I saw someone unmuted themselves. Anyway, connect with me on LinkedIn and happy to continue the conversation. You could sign up for office hours. I think, Mike, you have that
Yes, yeah,
URL.
the link's been posted, folks. It's in the events space on Mobilize, so you'll see it there. And we'll be sure to send more reminders as we get closer to that date.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you virtually, and thanks for joining. And hope to meet you in person at some point, if and when I'm in Boulder or that part of the world.
Yeah, totally.
But to be continued.